My dear friends, life has a way of whispering warnings before it shouts them. In love, those whispers are often called red flags, small signs that something is not quite as it should be. Many choose to look away, hoping the storm will pass, but I must tell you, turning away from the truth never protects the heart. Today, I wish to share with you the importance of recognizing these signs early, for they are not the enemy, denial is. When respect is missing in a relationship, it slowly erodes the very essence of what holds two people together, because respect is not simply about politeness or speaking kindly in public. It is about the daily choices that communicate value for the other person. It is the way we listen with full attention, the way we honor their feelings, even when we do not fully understand them, the way we make space for their individuality without trying to shape them into a version that pleases only us when respect is absent. Small disagreements can turn into battles for power, misunderstandings become accusations, and every conversation begins to feel like a competition instead of a safe exchange of thoughts. The person who is not respected starts to feel invisible. Their voice becomes quieter, not because they have nothing to say, but because they have learned that their words will not be met with understanding or care. And once that silence takes hold, the connection begins to fade. Respect is also about recognizing boundaries and not pushing past them in moments of anger or frustration. It means valuing someone enough to protect their dignity, even in the heat of conflict, and understanding that we can disagree without diminishing the worth of the other person. When respect is not present, one person may dismiss the dreams of the other, mock their ideas, or belittle their efforts, leaving them with a sense of inadequacy that seeps into every part of life it creates. Deep emotional distance, because without respect there can be no trust, and without trust love loses its ability to thrive. Sometimes the absence of respect is subtle, a small joke at the expense of the other in front of friends, a habit of interrupting when they speak, a lack of acknowledgement for their achievements. Other times it is overt, such as name-calling, manipulation, or complete disregard for their needs and feelings. And while love may still be professed in words, love without respect is like a flower without sunlight. It cannot grow, it cannot bloom, it withers slowly until there is nothing left to nourish both partners. Respect also shapes how conflicts are handled, because in every relationship challenges will arise, but when respect is the foundation, those challenges become opportunities to grow together rather than reasons to drift apart in a respectful relationship. Both people feel safe to express themselves without fear of being ridiculed or ignored. They know that their feelings matter, they know that their worth is not conditional on perfection. They can trust that even in moments of weakness they will not be shamed or belittled, and that kind of safety deepens love in ways nothing else can when respect is missing. However, even small issues can become unbearable because the person who is disrespected starts to feel constantly on guard, bracing for criticism or waiting for their feelings to be dismissed. They may find themselves questioning their own judgment, doubting their own worth, and losing sight of the vibrant, confident person they once were. And over time, this emotional erosion can be more damaging than any single act of betrayal, because it happens slowly, quietly under the surface, until one day the relationship feels like a place where the heart no longer belongs. The tragedy is that many ignore the absence of respect because they believe love alone will be enough to heal the wounds, but love without respect is a fragile thing. It cannot withstand the weight of unkind words, neglectful actions, or the absence of appreciation. Respect must be mutual. It must flow both ways. It must be shown not just in grand gestures, but in the smallest moments, in how you speak, how you listen, how you show up for each other day after day. When it is present, it builds a bond that is strong enough to endure hardships, but when it is missing, it slowly tears apart even the deepest connection, because at its core, respect tells us that we are seen, that we matter, and that our hearts are safe in the hands of the one we love. Emotional neglect leaves wounds deeper than words, because it is not always visible to the outside world, yet it quietly drains the spirit of the person who experiences it. It is the slow fading of affection, the absence of genuine interest, the feeling of being alone, even when someone is sitting right beside you. Emotional neglect is not about one dramatic event, but about a pattern of disregard for the emotional needs of the other person. It can look like conversations that are always surface level, with no curiosity about thoughts or feelings. It can be the habit of dismissing emotions as overreactions or unimportant. It can be the constant prioritizing of everything else over quality time together. When emotional needs go unmet, the person begins to feel unseen and unheard, and that sense of invisibility can be more painful than conflict, because conflict at least acknowledges the presence of another person's feelings, while neglect suggests that those feelings do not exist or do not matter. Over time, the lack of emotional connection creates a deep loneliness that is especially cruel when it comes from the very person who is supposed to be a source of love and comfort. This kind of loneliness is different from being physically alone. It is the ache of being in a relationship, yet feeling abandoned on an emotional island where every attempt to reach out is met with silence, indifference, or distraction. Emotional neglect teaches someone to shrink themselves, to stop sharing, to hide their needs, because experience has shown them that their needs will not be met. And when a person begins to silence their own heart to avoid the sting of rejection or apathy, they start losing parts of themselves. The vibrant laughter becomes quieter. The dreams are spoken of less often. The spark in their eyes begins to dim. Love cannot flourish in this kind of environment because love requires consistent nurturing through words, actions, and presence. Without that nurturing, the relationship becomes a shell where two people may share a life in appearance but not in depth. It is important to understand that emotional neglect can be as damaging as betrayal because it erodes trust in a different way. It sends the message that vulnerability will not be met with care, that sharing one's deepest thoughts will not bring closeness, but will instead be met with nothingness. And so the emotional bond weakens day by day. Sometimes the person responsible for emotional neglect does not realize the damage they are causing. They may think that providing materially or solving practical problems is enough to sustain the relationship. They may assume that silence means contentment, but emotional well-being is sustained through active engagement, through asking how someone is feeling and truly listening, through offering comfort without being asked, through remembering. The small details that matter because they matter to the other person. When these small acts are missing, the relationship loses its warmth and becomes transactional. The person on the receiving end may start to feel that their role is to endure rather than to be cherished, and this quiet suffering can last for years without being spoken aloud. The tragedy is that emotional neglect often goes unnoticed until the distance is so wide that it feels impossible to cross back over. By that point, the heart has grown tired of trying, and the one who has been neglected may no longer have the energy or trust to rebuild the bond. Even if the other person finally sees what has been lost, emotional neglect is dangerous because it wears down love without open conflict. It destroys intimacy without loud fights. It allows the outside world to believe everything is fine, while inside one heart is starving for connection, and the other does not even see it happening. Love needs emotional presence as much as it needs loyalty or commitment. It needs the reassurance that feelings will be valued, that joy will be celebrated together, that pain will be met with comfort, not dismissal. Without this, the relationship may continue in name, but the closeness that makes love a living, breathing thing will wither, leaving two people living side by side, yet worlds apart. Consistent dishonesty is a silent poison in any relationship because it seeps into the bond slowly without making a loud entrance. It can start with something small, perhaps a harmless story told to avoid conflict or a detail left out to keep the peace, but each time the truth is bent, it leaves a crack in the trust that holds two people together. Trust is like a fragile glass. Once a single fracture appears, it may still stand, but every new lie adds pressure until eventually it shatters and the pieces are nearly impossible to put back. The pain of dishonesty is not always about the lie itself, but about what it represents. It tells the other person that their right to the truth has been taken away, that decisions are being made without giving them the full picture, that they are being managed instead of respected. When someone discovers they have been lied to, their mind begins to question everything they once believed to be real. They replay past moments looking for signs they missed. They wonder if the words they cherished were genuine or simply another layer of deception. This constant questioning is exhausting. It steals peace of mind and replaces it with doubt. And doubt is the quiet thief of intimacy. Because in order to be close to someone, you must feel secure enough to be vulnerable, but dishonesty replaces that security with uncertainty and fear. A relationship built on lies can never be truly safe because the person on the receiving end learns to guard themselves, to keep a part of their heart hidden, so it cannot be broken again. Dishonesty is not only about spoken lies, it is also about withholding truths, avoiding important conversations, creating false impressions, or telling half stories that hide the reality. These acts may seem less harmful, but they are just as dangerous because they still rob the relationship of openness and authenticity when the truth is absent. The connection loses its foundation, and without that solid ground, love has nothing to stand on. Over time, dishonesty changes how people interact. The one who has been deceived may become suspicious, overly cautious, or even distant. They may check for signs they never used to notice, read between words that were once taken at face value, or question motives behind even the simplest actions. This shift erodes the natural ease that love should bring and replaces it with a tense undercurrent that never quite goes away. The one who is dishonest may think that hiding certain truths is a way to protect their partner from hurt, but in reality it is a way to protect themselves from accountability. It may shield them from immediate conflict, but it plants seeds of far greater pain for the future, because when the truth finally surfaces, and it almost always does, the hurt is multiplied, not only by the original act, but by the betrayal of having been kept in the dark. Dishonesty also teaches the wrong lessons about how problems should be faced instead of addressing issues together with honesty and courage. It encourages avoidance, secrecy, and manipulation. It turns the relationship into a place where the truth is conditional and where love is expected to survive without transparency. Yet, love cannot thrive where trust is absent. It may exist for a time out of habit or hope. But without truth, it becomes hollow, like a shell that looks whole on the outside, but is empty within honesty. Even when uncomfortable, creates strength between two people because it says you are worth the truth, our bond can withstand it, and we are equal in this partnership. It builds a pattern of openness that allows love to deepen over the years, while dishonesty builds a wall that grows higher and thicker with each unspoken truth, until both people are on opposite sides looking at each other from a distance they did not mean to. Create consistent dishonesty may feel easier in the moment, but it leaves scars that take years to heal. It robs both people of the chance to face life as a united front, and it denies the relationship the solid ground it needs to weather the storms that inevitably come. Repeated broken promises signal a broken foundation, because every commitment made in a relationship is more than just words. It is a bond of trust that reassures the other person they can rely on you. It is an unspoken agreement that what is promised will be honoured, and when those promises are broken again and again, it sends the message that reliability is absent and that the relationship rests on unstable ground. At first, a broken promise may be forgiven, because we all understand that life can be unpredictable, circumstances can change, and sometimes despite our best intentions we fall short. But when this becomes a pattern, when the words "I will" or "I promise" lose their weight because they are not followed by consistent action, the damage begins to sink deep into the heart of the person who has been let down. Repeated broken promises create a sense of uncertainty where the other person no longer feels safe to plan or hope, because experience has taught them that what is said today may not hold tomorrow. It erodes confidence in the relationship, because trust is not built on grand declarations but on the steady fulfillment of commitments, both big and small. When those commitments are not kept, the one on the receiving end begins to feel unimportant, as if their needs and expectations are secondary or optional. It can feel as though they are not worth the effort to follow through, and that feeling can cut deeper than any single disappointment over time. These repeated letdowns can change the very dynamic of the relationship. The person who is constantly disappointed may start to expect failure before it even happens. They may stop believing in the promises altogether, not out of bitterness, but as a form of self-protection to avoid the sting of yet another letdown. This loss of faith is not only painful but corrosive, because a relationship without belief in each other's word cannot truly thrive. The damage goes beyond the moment a promise is broken. It seeps into every interaction, shaping how the other person hears your words and sees your actions. Even when you speak with sincerity, they may hesitate to believe you, not because they want to doubt, but because their experience has taught them they must be cautious. Repeated broken promises can also create resentment, a quiet bitterness that builds with every unmet expectation. Each time a promise is made and not kept, it reopens old wounds, reminding the other person of all the times they hoped and were left with nothing. It is not only about the specific thing promised, but about the pattern of being let down. It is about the emotional investment made each time, believing things would be different, and the repeated realization that they are not. Sometimes the one breaking promises does not realize the damage being done. They may believe that intentions are enough, or that their partner understands why things did not work out, but good intentions cannot replace consistent actions, and understanding cannot erase the feeling of being disregarded each time a commitment is broken. Keeping promises is not about perfection, it is about integrity. It is about valuing the other person enough to follow through on what you say, or to be honest, when you cannot fulfill a commitment. Instead of making assurances you cannot keep in a healthy relationship, promises are not thrown around lightly, because each one carries weight. Each one is an opportunity to strengthen trust, to prove reliability, and to deepen the connection. But when promises are broken repeatedly, it sends the message that words are cheap, and that the relationship cannot be counted on to provide stability. This instability can leave the other person feeling as though they are standing on shifting ground, never certain when it might give way beneath them, and living with that kind of uncertainty is exhausting, because love should be a place of refuge, a place where you know that if someone says they will be there, they will be there, and that your faith in them is not misplaced. When that faith is broken over and over, the foundation of the relationship weakens until even the smallest tremor can cause cracks to spread far and wide. Control disguised as care is one of the most deceptive and damaging forces in a relationship because it often begins in a way that feels protective, considerate, and even loving. It can start with small gestures that seem thoughtful at first, such as wanting to know where you are for safety or offering advice on what is best for you. But slowly and quietly, it shifts from genuine concern to a desire to monitor, to restrict, to decide on your behalf without giving you the freedom to choose for yourself. This kind of control can be wrapped in words that sound caring, but carry an undertone of ownership, and the difficulty lies in recognizing it because it is presented as love, when in reality, love and control cannot coexist. True love celebrates individuality. It allows each person to grow in their own direction while still walking together, but control seeks to shape the other person into a version that fits only the controller's comfort. And expectations when someone is controlling, they may insist they are acting in your best interest, they may claim they know you better than you know yourself, they may make you feel as if your choices are risky, your friendships are questionable, or your independence is dangerous, and over time you may begin to doubt your own judgment. You might start second-guessing every decision, wondering how it will be received and adjusting your actions to avoid disapproval. This gradual erosion of confidence can lead to a life lived within invisible boundaries you did not choose but have been conditioned to accept. Control disguised as care can also isolate you from others. It may come in the form of subtle criticism about the people in your life or repeated suggestions that you would be happier spending more time at home. It might involve questioning your every outing, your attire, your conversations under the pretense of wanting the best for you. This isolation is dangerous because it cuts you off from perspectives that might help you see what is really happening, and it leaves you dependent on the very person who is limiting you. Sometimes control takes the form of financial restrictions, where access to money is limited or monitored under the justification of budgeting or responsibility. Other times it is emotional control, where guilt is used as a weapon and affection is given or withdrawn based on compliance. This creates an environment where love feels conditional, where approval must be earned rather than given freely. The person on the receiving end of such control can begin to feel smaller, as if their world is shrinking and their voice carries less weight. They may find themselves apologizing, constantly trying harder to please, yet never feeling truly free. The tragedy is that because the control is masked as care, it can be incredibly difficult to call it out to friends or even to oneself, because how can something that looks so much like love be so suffocating? But love is never about diminishing another person's autonomy. It is about trusting them to navigate their own life while standing beside them, not in front of them, blocking the way real care supports without smothering. It protects without possessing. It guides without dictating. But control offers no such freedom. It replaces mutual respect with a hierarchy where one person's perspective always outweighs the others, and in such an environment, the relationship stops being a partnership and becomes a silent power struggle. The worst part is that the one being controlled may start to believe this is what love is meant to be, and this belief can carry forward into future relationships, continuing the cycle. True care should leave you feeling stronger, more capable, more certain of who you are, not smaller, weaker, or more dependent. Control disguised as care robs you of the ability to make your own mistakes and learn from them. It strips away your independence while convincing you that it is for your own good, and in the process it slowly erodes the trust and equality that a healthy loving bond requires. If your spirit feels smaller, it is not the right place for your heart, because love should expand you. It should make you feel more alive, more confident, more connected to the best parts of yourself. It should give you space to breathe, to grow, to explore your dreams without fear of being diminished. Yet there are relationships that, instead of nourishing your spirit, slowly make you feel as though you must shrink yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. When you begin to hold back your laughter because it is too loud, or silence your opinions because they will not be welcomed. When you start dressing differently, speaking differently, or thinking twice before expressing joy or ambition, you are already feeling the weight of a cage that is not built from love but from limitation. Love should encourage you to stand taller, not to make yourself smaller, so someone else can feel taller. Love should celebrate your individuality, not erase it in the name of harmony. When you're in a place that makes your spirit feel smaller, you begin to lose the freedom to be unapologetically yourself. Your creativity may fade because there is no encouragement. Your passions may be labeled as distractions. Your achievements may be downplayed or ignored, and the light in your eyes may dim without you even realizing it. Over time, you may start believing that this smaller version of yourself is who you truly are, forgetting the vibrant person you once were. This is how unhealthy love convinces you to settle for less than you deserve. It tells you in subtle ways that your voice is too much, that your feelings are too sensitive, that your needs are too demanding. It rewards you for compliance and punishes you for authenticity until you start policing your own heart to avoid disapproval. This slow erosion of self is one of the most dangerous forms of harm in a relationship, because it often does not come with shouting or visible scars. Instead, it comes with quiet compromises made one after another, until you wake up one day and realize you no longer recognize yourself. A healthy relationship should feed your courage, not your fear. It should be a place where your soul feels at home, where you can bring every part of yourself without editing or hiding when you're with someone who truly values you. They will not see your light as a threat. They will see it as something beautiful to protect and encourage. They will not try to contain your growth, but will grow alongside you, sharing in the journey rather than limiting it when you feel smaller. It often means you are carrying the weight of someone else's insecurities, their need for control, their discomfort with your independence, and their inability to celebrate you for who you are. This weight can be heavy enough to crush dreams and silence joy. If you carry it for too long, the danger lies in how easy it is to adapt to this smaller version of yourself, to tell yourself that peace is better than confrontation, that comfort is better than freedom. But peace, bought at the cost of your spirit, is not real peace. It is quiet despair and comfort that demands you diminish yourself. It's not comfort at all. It is confinement. The truth is that love is not meant to confine. It is meant to open doors, not close them. It is meant to make you feel safe in your skin, not make you doubt if you are too much or not enough. When your spirit feels smaller, it is your soul's way of telling you that something is wrong, that you are being asked to give up pieces of yourself to keep the relationship alive. But a love that costs you your essence will never be worth the price, because when the heart is forced to live in a smaller space than it was meant, for it cannot beat with the same freedom and joy that it once did, and the longer it stays confined, the more it forgets what it feels like to truly live.